Hi, I'm Amy, and we're going to talk about gift wrapping ideas today. I get a lot of compliments, and I've always thought that what I do is so simple that anyone can do it. So we're going to share some of those ideas today. Even if you're great at gift wrapping already, stick around to the end of the video because we're going to cover some tips that I think are creative that I don't see a lot of people using, so you might like some of those. And we'll share some tips on wrapping on a budget, so reusing or repurposing some things that a lot of people just throw away. So if you want to save some money while you're doing it, you can do that as well. So first thing is, let's talk about gift wrapping in general. The easiest thing you can do, the way to make gift wrapping as easy as possible for you is to wrap a box. So what I mean by that is, for example, here's a toy that would obviously be hard to wrap on its own. I mean, this is how it was bought in the store, this is the packaging that it comes in, but it just would not be real easy to wrap. And even if you did wrap it, this part right here would be so weak that if anybody just accidentally even touched it or punctured it, it'd be pretty easy to rip. So the best thing to do is to get these things in boxes. Now, when it comes to Cutco, you have a few different options as boxes go. If you want to give just like a single piece or two, they offer this type of box where when it comes, it's actually just a flat box that you'll fold up. So it's really easy, very inexpensive. That's really nice. It still looks nice and it makes it a lot easier to wrap, of course. They also have this type of box where it's more of a lid type of box. So this is a 4-pack of table knives, for example. And these boxes even come in these little sleeves, which make them really easy to wrap. This one, for example, is an example of this exact box all wrapped up. So, and then of course your third option is that you just wrap in the cardboard box things come in. So, a box similar to this, right? So each order comes in a cardboard box, so you can just leave it in there and wrap it up. And by the way, one of the things that I do in order to save myself money so I don't have to buy a bunch of boxes for my gifts is as I'm ordering things, you know, a few months leading up to the holidays, I'll just keep the boxes. So when I get shipments in, I save the boxes, just throw them in the garage or in a closet somewhere, and then when I need them, I have them. The other thing you can do though, if you've never done this before, is you can also go to your grocery store and just ask for empty boxes that they've unpacked. Usually you can get those for free at grocery stores too. So we're going to put this toy in the box, and because there's still some extra space and you don't necessarily want things to jiggle around if people shake the boxes trying to figure out what it is, it's better if it's not slamming back and forth, possibly breaking it. So I recommend also stuffing the boxes. Make them nice and tight. So that when you wrap it up, there's no movement, right? So that's step one, is if you can get it in a box, or if it comes in a box, even better. But if you can get it in a box, then put it in a box. Let's talk about step two, which is the actual wrapping. So the first thing to do is, of course, to cut your paper to the size that you need it. And for me, the easiest way to figure out the size that I need is just to put the gift in the paper. And then just make sure that what I cut, so right there, I know that if I cut around this area, I'll have enough paper to cover it. So the nice thing is some papers these days come with lines on them. I don't know if you can see that on this paper. There's actually a grid line on the inside of the paper. So as long as you're following the lines, it's very easy to cut. But even if your paper doesn't have grid lines, the other thing you can do is just cut right next to the roll, because the roll is generally a straight line too. So if the roll is here, and I know I'm going to cut my paper in this area, I can actually just cut next to the roll and it'll keep my cut straight. Now I'm not too concerned with how perfect the edge is. Like sometimes, depending on the scissors that you're using, these shears work great, of course, but you'll get a jagged edge. Maybe it's not a pretty cut. That's okay. You can deal with that later. We're going to fix that in the wrapping process. Now, the other thing is that makes your gift wrapping really easy, and this is probably one of the things that I find that most people struggle with, is they'll cut a paper like this and then they'll just try to wrap it, but it's still not actually the perfect size. It's the perfect size this way, but it's not the perfect size this way. The perfect size on the ends is that you want the paper to come up about halfway up the box. If it comes up any farther than that, you're going to end up with extra paper that's sometimes difficult to work with. So that's about right. And again, on this paper, it's grid line, so I can tell if there's 4 inches it looks like on that side. I'm going to keep it the same on this side. And even again, if you didn't have the grid lines, that's okay. Just measure it, on the box and then cut it the same on this side. So we're going to cut this end off. This makes your job so much easier later to cut the excess paper off. It'd be like the same idea is that you could throw on a piece of clothing that is way too big for you and you could make it work. You could roll up the sleeves or you could cinch it with a belt or something. But it probably wouldn't look as good as if you just had it the size that fit you right. So it's the same idea with the gifts. You can throw them in stuff that's too big and then make it work. But generally not going to look quite as nice as if you do it in the paper that's the right size for it. Next step is, of course, wrapping. Now, if you have a gift that has a definite, bottom and top, generally you want to put it upside down so that when you tape it up, your paper seams are on the bottom of the box. It's not a huge deal unless you just want to make sure that it's sitting the right way up and you want the seams on the bottom. However, I usually cover the seams anyway, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So the seams are not as big a deal to me as just making sure that the gift's sitting the way that I want it to sit, if there's a reason for that. So the next thing, of course, is just to fold your paper over and we're going to tape it here. Now some people use double-sided tape so that you don't see the tape. Again, I'm going to show you how I cover the seams, so I don't really care about the tape. But this is where, if you had paper that was a little bit jagged, the best thing to do is just to fold it over a tiny bit. So it looks something like this, right? I just folded that edge over so that when and that's the one that's going to be on top, so that when I put it on the box, it's a nice clean edge. So it's okay, once again, if your cut is not a perfect looking cut. Okay, so now we've got that. So now that we've got the tape on there, we're going to fold the ends. So this part is so easy, but this is what makes a huge difference in just how it looks in the end. So we are going to fold the end down, and we're going to do it so that it's all the way over to the edge here, and then we're just going to make that triangle crease. Okay, so fold the end down all the way in, make that crease. And then we're going to fold those creases in. It's easier to do when I'm actually doing it towards me. But fold those creases in like this, again, all the way to the bottom, and make those creases and then fold it up. And of course, put a piece of tape there. And again, on this too, if it didn't land exactly where you wanted, maybe it's coming up a little too high, or you don't like the edge, maybe it's jagged on this end too. Same idea, just fold it over and then roll it the rest of the way up and then tape it. Really easy. And then once you have that one done, you can actually set it up, which is a little easier to work with. So same idea, you're gonna fold it in, fold it over, and fold it up. There. And there's the gift. So it already looks really good. So even if you just wanted to do this, that would be enough. But now let's talk about if you want to take it to that next level of decoration or creativity, there are some different things you can do. So for example, here's one that I already have wrapped. I wrapped it the exact same way as the one we just did. Now I'm going to cover the seams with ribbon. And I use a good couple of different types of ribbon, but for this one, let's use the shiny type that I'm going to tape on there, okay? So I have already cut these to the right size. And when I'm actually figuring out the size of the ribbon, I do the same thing I do with the paper, which is I just put the ribbon on the gift, and then I make sure to cut it so that it comes together like that. So I don't have too little ribbon, I don't have a lot of excess ribbon, but that's how I do that. Now the seam of the gift is right here, and that's what I want to cover. And actually I'm going to make it so that every single piece of tape is covered on this gift except for on the very ends. And so instead of taping the seam back here, I'm actually going to cover that with the ribbon and tape it on the front side. You can do the ribbons wherever you like on the gift as far as, just now there's a piece of tape right here. But I could have taped it down here and had the ribbons cross, like ribbons cross here and here. It can be right in the middle, it can be offset, you'll see what I mean. But you can put the ribbon wherever you like. I like to put it so that it covers the seams, like I said. So I'm gonna do the same thing this way. There's no seam going this way, but I've already got the long seam covered. So now this is just, I'm gonna put this where I want this to cover where that tape already is, so that I only have one spot with tape to cover up later. So I'm gonna do the same thing there. And you wanna make sure that the tape is covering at least part of both sides of the ribbon so that neither one slides away. So you want it to be like right there where the two ribbons come together, the two edges of the ribbon. Okay, because now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take ribbon, like a bow type ribbon, right? You can buy the bows to put there, like store-bought bows. I usually make my own because I find that it's fun and it's less expensive, right? Ribbons can cost quite a bit. I'm gonna show you how to make this, but essentially once I am ready, I'm gonna tape this on here too, so it looks something like that. Now it's kind of a big gift, so I would probably make a bigger bow. So let's do that together. So I've already pre-cut some of these little types of ribbons you can buy, which are very inexpensive. And all I do is I take each color, one after the other. You can do multiple colors. Sometimes I've done 5 or 6 color ribbons. And I just stack them so they're slightly off center, so like not all right on top of each other. Because you want, when you put the piece of tape on here, you want the tape to at least touch a partial area of each part of the ribbon so it doesn't fall apart later. So there is ribbon stacked right on top of each other, and I take my piece of tape right here and I just fold it over. So now I've got my little ribbon. And this, by the way, these are the types of ribbons that you can make even, whether you want it to be big and flowy or whether you want to do the thing where you make them even more spirally, right? You can do that. Totally your call. But you can do this as many times as you want to and keep making your little ribbon puff bigger and bigger. So now, when I tape this on here, you can see the ribbon has like a natural way of flowing. I could tape it on this way. It's kind of weird because you can see the tape. So it makes more sense to tape it on this way so that the ribbon actually covers where the tape is. So I'm going to put that right in here also. And now we've got a little bit bigger piece. And you could keep doing that until the ribbon is as big and fluffy as you'd like. That's a really easy way to make it look super cute, and that didn't cost much at all. And it was so easy, you did it yourself. You didn't have to buy those ribbons that are more expensive. So that's one example. Now let me show you a couple of other things that I think are super fun. Of course, I'm going to show you how to do this type of ribbon in a minute if you'd like to do that. But here are some ideas you can use if you just want to jazz up your gift a little bit, do something a little more creative than not everybody does. One thing is you can repurpose. So if you want to use magazine or newspaper instead of wrapping paper, you can do that. The thing I love about this one is that it's got the crossword puzzle on it. So imagine if you put a different puzzle on everybody's package and then the game Christmas morning was solve the puzzle first and you get to open the gift or something like that. Or the first person to get their puzzle solved opens first and then everybody opens after that. Whatever it is. You could buy some of those really inexpensive books that are just the word finds or Sudoku or whatever, and you could wrap everybody's gifts in that, and then that could be part of the fun that day. So I think it's a really fun idea. So you can use that. You can also use cutouts. So like this is a little cutout of a Christmas tree that I made out of the ribbon and put on the gift. Something else that people do is using, again, repurposing, using a grocery bag. All I did with this grocery bag was cut it down the sides of the bag and then cut out the bottom of the bag so that the grocery bag opened up into like a piece of wrapping paper. And then I wrapped the gift. But before I did that, actually, I did a couple of cutouts. I wrapped the gift with regular paper, did some cutouts on the grocery bag, and then that way the cutouts come through. And so that's an idea too that you can use. And if you'd rather, instead of having just a plain piece of paper. You can also decorate it. So this one we've got, you know, it's hand decorated with like Christmas lights and the person's name that the gift is going to, instead of having to put a name tag on it. So that's another idea. Something else I love